Hello, hello, Ederson Oliveira here, and today I am talking to Joe Brinkman from DNN Corp about DNN 9. Joe, welcome.
Thank you, Aderson. Yeah, I'm really excited to be talking about DNN 9. It seems like just yesterday that we were launching DNN 8, and here we are already talking about DNN 9. So
yeah, we had a short-lived DNN 8. DNN 8 lasted for 2016, and then we are already jumping to DNN 9. So we have been, I've been listening a lot, hearing a lot about DNN 9. I saw your latest blog post on that. Can you tell me what is new on DNN 9? That's the first question here.
So the primary thing that is new on DNN 9 is going to be a completely new admin experience, and that's really the heart of why DNN 9 so quickly. This is something we've been wanting to do for a long time now, and it's at the point where we were going to do that for Evoke, and it's like, you know what, this really should be something delivered at the platform level. And we actually started working on this for Evoke a couple of months ago, and we as we went along, it's like, no, this really needs to be at the platform level. So, which is also why suddenly we've got DNN 9 appearing out of nowhere, so to speak. For many people in the community, it certainly seems that way. So yeah, so that's really the driving force, is we really needed that refresh on how we think about the administration experience.
Got it. And this is more for my own sake, and it's more of a curiosity here. Why the jump in version and not just a 8.1 or 8.2 version?
Well, a couple of reasons for that. You know, some of the feedback we've had for a while has been that people were getting confused because we had DNN 8, but we had Evoke 8.5, and then we were getting ready to go to Evoke 9 because there's some really big things coming on the Evoke side. And it's like, so we're going to have a DNN 8.1 and an Evoke 9, or a DNN 8.5 and an Evoke 9. And it's like, no, this really is that big a jump in terms of functionality. You know, we literally are rewriting the entire admin UI for all of the admin and host pages. That's roughly 20 different modules and about 150 different UI screens. That deserves a major new platform version, because it does change the way fundamentally that people build for the admin experience.
Got it. Okay. So just today in the morning, someone reached out to me, and he said, "Hey, did you see this announcement of DNN 9? And I heard about this thing called the persona bar, which is one of the key aspects of the key drivers of this DNN 9. So can you talk a little bit about what is the persona bar and what's behind that?"
Sure. So let's actually shift over here. I'm going to pull up a slide here, which I think covers it pretty well. Let me go ahead and share out my screen here. So I did a presentation on this, as you mentioned, a few weeks ago. Let me make sure I know what screen's being. There we go. So we did this presentation a few weeks ago, and really the persona bar is about presenting a UI or an administrative experience to users in a way that still maintains their context, where they're at on their website, what they're doing on their website. And this was introduced originally in the Evoke Social product, and it received a lot of positive comments from customers, so much so that we introduced it into the Evoke content for content managers and content editors. And the paradigm works for a number of reasons, because it is very lightweight. it's built using HTML, CSS, JavaScript with a web API backend, which is another thing that we have been wanting to do for a long time, which is build out a complete web service API for the platform. When we originally introduced the web service framework back in DNN 6 timeframe, I don't remember the exact release version, but when we first introduced that, it was always with the intention that we were going to build out a complete API for DNN that would be web service accessible. So this sort of drives that transition as well. So we get a very lightweight UI, one that slides out over the top of your DNN page that you're currently on, but then can also slide back out of the way so you're back exactly in the context, exactly on the page you were on. You didn't lose your place, so to speak, or you know, what you were doing. We kind of try to do as much as we can to not interrupt the flow that you were in or the context that you were in. You know, if you look at the way the admin experience has always been, or the host experience, you left the page you were on, you went, you did something as an admin or a host, and then you had to navigate back to the page, reset the state of the page. Maybe you had drilled into a specific record on the page and wanted to do something. And that's sort of cumbersome, right? It's several clicks, several page refreshes, because maybe you needed to change your permission or do something else in the system, and then come back to the page and do that. So one of the really nice aspects of the persona bar is that it does away with all of that, because you can just sort of slide it out, do the action you wanted, and then hide it, and you're still on the page you were. So that's really some of the impetus of doing that. The other thing is, if you look at most of the admin experience that we have today, much of it looks like it was written 10 or 15 years ago, because in fact much of the admin experience we have today was written 10 or 15 years ago, right? And it's been a long time since we've really focused on, hey, let's rethink some of this admin experience. And a great example of that is in the area of security, right? So if you want to go in and set security settings in DNN, you need to go into the host area, and there will be a few security settings, security-related settings there. You'll go into the site settings, and you'll set a few settings there. You may go down into the users page and set a few settings there. And so you really have this really sort of chopped up experience trying to get security for your system configured. So part of this is not just rebuilding UI, changing the experience, but it's also about refreshing the information architecture of how you navigate to these areas and how this information is presented in a way that maybe from a usability perspective makes it easier to get to it.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Okay. So I have a question here. I guess that it's a bit of a step back, but by the way, I love the move. I love the transition to a slim admin. But I'd like to just to see, just to understand a little bit more of what goes on about trying to validate, a move like that. A move to DNN9, a move to change all the admin. Was something like this, exposed to the community, and they had some input on that? I mean, was that validated somehow, or it was really based on the usage of the Evoke platform that DNN Corp wanted to migrate this back to, not back, but down to the platform? What is the validation that is used there, Joe? I just wanted to have a bit of an understanding,
So actually, this has been a multi-year long conversation. And it's not one where it's like, hey, here is this thing we want to do, let's validate it. It's more like conversation after conversation that takes place over many years where people say, hey, this is a problem, right? Designers say too much of the admin interface, CSS, leaks into page design. Too much of that, the form pattern, leaks into the module development and impacts the way themes get built. Or how come I go to this page and this menu or that thing starts interfering with the JavaScript I have on my page, right? So all of these are experiences that we all see and we all talk about, and we say, oh, that's bad. You know, we need to figure out how to solve that, right? And we have that conversation, and then we move on, right? We've got other higher priority things to do. And then we get to the point and we say, you know what, the UI for admin is old and we really need to look at updating it or refreshing it. We have another conversation where we talk about, boy, it would be really nice to get this web service framework in here and to get a web service API in the platform. How do we do that? When do we prioritize that? How do we make that happen, right? And so you have these conversations with the community and with customers over a long period of time, and then you see and you start having conversations on the commercial side with commercial customers and with the commercial product team, and they say, you know what, we've had such a positive feedback on the persona bar that we want to move the rest of the admin experience in there, because for our commercial customers, they have sort of this Jekyll and Hyde experience, right? They get this nice modern UI in the persona bar for community managers, content managers, and content editors, but there's still a lot of things that they have to go to the admin side for, and the host setting or host pages for, and it's really this stark contrast between the old UIs and the new UI, and it really does not present well. It doesn't present DNN, and it doesn't present Evoke in a really great light. So you take all those data points and you say, you know what, we were going to make this move for our commercial side because we had to present a unified administrative experience for our commercial customers. And then you say, you know what, it really doesn't make sense to have commercial customers with one experience, but the platform customers have this older experience. And we're rebuilding all of these UIs anyway. It really makes sense for us to do it one time and provide it to all of our customers, whether you're on the platform or whether you're in Evoke. So it really wasn't a question of, hey, let's validate this with the community, but it's like, hey, we've got long-standing problems that everybody acknowledges. We have a solution for it already in our commercial products. How do we bring that down and open that up and broaden that so that the platform and commercial customers can get advantage of this admin experience? Because we're not really talking about bringing Evoke features or functionality down. We're talking about bringing a certain experience down, right? And making that the baseline experience for platform, and then build on that for Evoke customers.
Great, great. One thing that I have to note is that I really love the fact that the versioning will be in sync now. So there's only one, let's say, one 9.1 in the future. There's only one 9. It's DNN Platform 9 or Evoke 9. It's just one number, and that will make our lives in general much easier. Just side note.
Yeah. So, you know, this is a decision that I understand from a one perspective, where I have I personally have some challenges with this because I think it poses another problem for us when we get into a case where in the platform we decide to build, a really big feature maybe on one release, and it makes sense for us to go from DNN 9 to DNN 9.1 or DNN 9.5, right, or whatever that jump is. And maybe we're just doing some bug fixes or whatever in Evoke for that release. Does Evoke warrant getting that same jump? Now, in this case, it probably does because it inherits all of the DNN platform changes, right? So Evoke's got our changes plus whatever additional changes they have. Flip that on its head. When Evoke 8 came out, there were a lot, and I mean a lot of changes that were introduced in Evoke 8. At the same time, we had just a few small feature enhancements that went in the platform. Should we have called platform DNN 8 at the time, even though there were only a couple of small changes going in? That's the sort of challenge that we had, which is why we ended up forking version numbers. And we're going to be back in that situation going forward, right? After DNN 9, Evoke is going to evolve at a pace that is different than what the platform evolves at. And sometimes Evoke is going to have big changes in it and platform won't. And sometimes platform is going to have big changes in it and Evoke won't. And how do you communicate that to customers in a way that makes sense? If I say suddenly, well, we're going to DNN 10, and everyone says, but there's no new features in DNN 10. And it's like, well, the new feature is we're keeping version numbers in sync with Evoke, right? So that's what we're going to have to communicate in the future. So there's no right or wrong here, I think, because you can make an argument for both ways.
I guess that it's a trade-off. You are trading one set of challenges for another one, and let's see which one is more or less challenging, over time.
Right.
Okay, perfect. So moving on, Joe, I'd like to put a few different hats here, and there are usually three main hats that we can wear when we're talking about DNN and the platform and even Evoke as well. I put the hat of the admin, of the administrator. I put the hat of the module developer, and I put the hat of the theme creator, the skin creator. So let's start with the admin hats. Why should I be, and I guess that you can just expand more on that. Why should I be excited about being an admin guy, being a DNN administrator or Evoke administrator? Why should I be excited with DNN 9?
So I think a couple of reasons. One, I think when you look at the administrative experience that we're going to expose in DNN 9, and maybe we'll have a few minutes to take a brief glance at that here towards the end of today's session. I think you're going to find it's much more fluid. It's a faster experience. It feels nicer, if that makes sense. But from a purely IT guy's perspective, the other big win here for them is that we did some analysis of DNN and what our current approach to administration costs us. And the reality is that there is a not insignificant chunk of memory that is dedicated to loading up the current admin experience. Because it's built around ASCX and web forms, there's some server compilation that goes on to compile those ASCXs, and you never know when that's actually going to happen on your server. There are extra DLLs that are created. There's a lot of extra memory overhead that's created, which ultimately impacts how much you can scale on a given set of hardware, given the current DNN implementation. So it's not just memory space, but it's also CPU impact as well. And so there are a couple of impacts today that you pay for because of the way that modules are built using web forms. So we're going to be able to reduce the memory footprint, which means you can get, if you're a hosting guy, you can get greater density on your servers. If you're just a, I've got my own server here, or I'm running in the cloud, it means you can scale better because you've got more memory that you can allocate to cache, or less memory that you have to worry about till you hit whatever limits there are in your hosting provider. So there are lots of other secondary benefits, I think, from the administrator perspective that they're going to get. And I think the other thing that we're going to get is that we're going to get an information architecture that makes more sense today. One of the things that always drove me nuts was trying to remember, is this setting in host settings or is this setting in site settings? And that really is going to hopefully be fixed with the new IA. We've spent a lot of time looking at IA. We literally spent at least a month breaking down all of the existing information architecture, what settings run what screens, what modules were used to compose different screens, and tried to figure out what makes sense, right? Do all of those things go together where they're currently at? Can we rearrange some of those to make better sense? I think security is one of those areas where we did a bunch of moving things around to make more sense. So I think there are lots of good wins there for admins.
Perfect. So let's move on to the module developer. As a module developer, first, do I need to be worried about my modules being compatible? I don't think so, but again, I'd like to hear from you on that. So do I have to be worried about that? And what will change for me as a module developer?
Sure. So module developers are probably going to have the least amount of change of any group. As a module developer, you can still build modules using web forms. You can build modules using MVC. You can build modules using SPA. You can build modules using Razor web pages. All of those things are still supported. None of those are going away. The underlying base of the platform is still fundamentally built on web forms. So if you're building HTTP modules, you're still going to have HTTP modules, right? So it's not this major shift to some new technology. It's not a shift to .NET Core, for example. It is the same DNN core with all of the admin modules just being rewritten. So the other aspect of that for module developers is that there will be some CSS changes that may trickle down to the module level. We are implementing some new styles or patterns in the persona bar. We're looking at whether or not we can make those available to module developers. But for the most part, module developers should be fairly unchanged from a coding perspective.
Got it. Okay, so one point on the module developer that I want to ask a little bit more is, are module developers going to be able to add more options in the persona bar, to add, let's say, add a different navigation there, or add another option, or add a sub option there on the persona bar? Will that be an easier process to be done?
So yes, so we are building a new extension point for the persona bar. So effectively, the persona bar is going to replace the old control panel. So if you had a control panel before, you're really not going to be able to use your old control panel with DNN 9, because the concept of a module on a page defining the admin experience, that concept goes away to a degree, and we'll talk about that some more here. So the persona bar exists, and it's a completely iframed experience. You never see the iframe, but ultimately, technically, under the covers, it's in an iframe, which means it is isolated from the rest of the page, which means none of the CSS, none of the JavaScript that is in that persona bar should have any impact on anything that's going on the page. And because of the way that we've built the persona bar, we want people to be able to extend it. And in fact, we need to be able to have extensibility within the persona bar so that we can deliver a baseline experience for the platform and then add in those custom pieces for our Evoke customers. So all of the things that we deliver today for Evoke content and Evoke Engage, we still need to be able to add those back in. So creating it as a fully extensible persona bar just makes sense. Now, this is where there is some impact for module developers. So if you're a module developer and you really love web forms, we're really not looking to expose web forms based pages in the persona bar, because it's not really a page in the traditional DNN sense. It is an HTML page or an HTML file and some JavaScript that are exposed in the persona bar. It is truly a single page application that will know how to load your extension, i.e. how to load your HTML and your JavaScript model. And from that point forward, then you can make your calls into the back end or make your calls out to some third-party service or whatever it is you need to do for your module. And that includes, you'll be able to have an associated assembly that your module can call, for your own custom web services. But effectively, it is a SPA-only experience. It is not web forms. It's not MVC. We don't have the rendering pipeline that we have in a main DNN page. So it will require people to learn some new things. The other thing where it is a bit different than we've done in the past, traditionally in DNN, in the rest of the platform, we've provided hooks and very little guidelines on what you had to do to plug into DNN. And so what you end up with is a very diverse experience for the end user. With the persona bar, we're changing that. With the persona bar, we are looking to be much more prescriptive in what we tell people they should be doing, and providing much fewer opportunities for people to color outside the lines, so to speak. So we're going to have on day one, we'll continue to support Knockout and jQuery inside the persona bar. We use those today in our own persona bar. But the primary approach that we're going to promote is the use of React and Redux and much more modern tools for building out the persona bar experience. And we do that for a couple of reasons, because we've built out all of the current persona bar experiences using React components. And we have those in a common library that everyone will be able to take advantage of and will be able to share. So if you need a calendar or a date picker or any number of UI paradigms, they'll already be built out as React components, and you'll just be able to use them within your UI and get a very uniform experience, whether it's a third-party UI or whether it's one that comes native in the platform, or even one that's in Evoke, because we'll all be using the same components. And so from that perspective, we're going to be much more prescriptive and say, this is the way you do things when you're building for the persona bar.
Okay, good. Now, the third one, the last hat here, the theme creator, the skin creator, what will there be any foreseeable impact on existing skins, existing themes by any chance, and what do they have to worry about next moving towards DNN 9?
I think in DNN 9 there's going to be minimal impact on theme developers. I don't know yet that we're planning to make any big changes on the theming side in terms of what CSS we deliver or the order in which CSS is rendered or things like that. Where I think DNN 9 has the most impact on theme developers is that they no longer have to worry about how their theme is going to look on the admin experience. They're no longer responsible for the admin experience. The admin experience is going to be a much more locked down experience from a design perspective, because we're very concerned about keeping a consistent experience, whether you're running Evoke, whether you're running Platform, no matter what skin is installed. You'll be able to look at the documentation and look at the admin experience, and it's going to match. It's not going to be this thing that somebody wrote a skin that breaks the way tabs render in an admin page, for example, right? Which is something that happens all the time now. I see some skins, they spend a lot of time and effort making sure every admin page works the way it's supposed to, that everything renders correctly. And then I go and look at other skins, and the customer-facing bits all look great, and you go to an admin page, and it's all kind of janked up a little bit. And so we're basically saying, you know what, as a platform, we're going to take responsibility for the admin and making that experience look really nice and modern. And you as a theme designer are going to be responsible for what the customer-facing branded portion of the website looks like.
Perfect. Okay. So if I got this, tell me if I got this right. So there will be no longer the host's traditional page nor the admin page, but are we still gonna have the host concept and the admin concept? Are we still gonna have those roles there?
Yes, those roles don't go away. What will happen is, just like happens today, we will light up those portions of the admin experience in the persona bar as depending upon the role. So we do this today. If you're an Evoke content customer and you log in as a content manager, you see the persona bar pieces that are relevant to a content manager. If you come in and log in as a community manager, you'll have all of the pieces in the persona bar that are necessary to administer the community, but you won't have page editing functionality, right? And so that same concept will translate into the DNN 9 experience, where if you come in as a host, we're going to light up all of the experiences that you need and have access to as host, which pretty much is everything, right? If you come in as an admin, you'll probably see all of the exact same pages, except maybe one, and then we will turn on and off the appropriate buttons or the appropriate section that you don't have access to because you don't have host permissions, right? And a classic example today is you look at something like extensions, right? If you go to the host menu in DNN and you log in as a host, you'll see host extensions. And then you go in as admin in the admin menu and you'll see admin extensions, right? And it's like we've got two different UIs and you're like, well, which one do I go to if I'm trying to administer this certain functionality? And users is another great example. You go to host users to administer the super users in the system, and you go to admin users to administer everybody else, right? And it's like, it really should be one experience one page, we know what role you're in, and we will just alter the page experience or that admin experience based on your role. We shouldn't have to make you figure out where in the IA to go to based on my current role. The IA should just adjust to you, not the other way around. So that's, yeah, so all of those same roles still apply. We're just going to be more intelligent about how we expose functionality. So managing users, you're going to go always to the users page in the persona bar, and it doesn't matter what role you are, we'll show you the appropriate functionality that you have based on your current role.
Okay, okay, that makes sense. Just to confirm, I think that I got this right. There are no new system requirements change from DNN to DNN, like the the .NET framework, SQL Server, everything will be the same as DNN, correct?
Correct, correct. This is not about a technology upgrade as much as it is about modernizing the experience for the customer.
Got it. So we are coming to an end here on my points, and I know that you have some points there to add, but pretty much my last point here is what is the roadmap? How we are here at the end of, the very end of September, beginning of October. What is the roadmap for DNN9?
Yeah, so we are looking to deliver DNN9 in 2016. We have a Q4 delivery date for that. Realistically, we're looking at the beginning of December for that delivery. We are far enough along at this point that I think we're fairly comfortable with that date. Obviously, like every date around software, there's always the possibility that things could slip, but we're fairly comfortable with the date we have now. That really gives us roughly another 6 weeks or so of development. Well, 4 weeks of development, another couple of weeks after that for bug fixes and stabilization, things like that. So yeah, so we're making very good progress. This was not something, even though we made the announcement a couple of weeks ago, this is actually something that started mid-summer this year. We started looking at this. I think as far back as June, we started work on this effort. So it's definitely been something we've been working on for a while here.
Got it. Okay. So when are we gonna start seeing nightly builds on GitHub? Because you mentioned before to me, again offline, that there's would be a separate project. So when are you gonna start seeing some nightly builds there?
Oh, good question. So actually this week, and let me shift over here. This week we actually started with first nightly builds for DNN9. You can go to the community, go into the download area into nightly builds, and you can get the latest nightly build. Now we've still got some labeling. There's still lots of moving parts we have to get done, but if you grab this latest 8.0 build, when you install it, it's going to say it's 8.5, and actually it's going to say it's 8.05, when in fact it is 9.0. And so when you pull that down, ignore the versions for now. We'll get those cleaned up here in the next couple of weeks. But just know, if you pick up a nightly build now, it is the DNN9, or what will be labeled DNN9 when we finally ship. And we do have a new project on GitHub. We're not quite ready. We're maybe a day or two away from being able to open that up. As I said, Persona Bar started as an evoke concept and as evoke code, and it's taken us a while to get it cleaned up to the point and get it to a point where we could expose that to the community and move that over from the commercial code base into the open source code base. I think just last night we got the first clean code base without all of the old history, because that's the other thing, right? Git's great at keeping history around, but if the history is here's the history of all the commercial code. It's not necessarily something we wanted to put in the open source side. So we have a new repository that was just created last night that's got just the bits we think are the community open source bits, and we've got, I think, another day or so of review, internal review, just to make sure that that is in fact the right bits going into the open source side, and then we'll keep iterating on that. I mean, we've been iterating on it for a while, but a lot of that's been move things out at the same time we're refactoring, and name changes and namespace changes and all kinds of things going on there. So I think we're really close to that being there. Having said that, so we're still very much alpha. So when you download the nightly build, and I actually have one here, let me go ahead and log in, and we'll just maybe take a quick glance at the new experience here. So this is running on a VM on my machine, so it may be a little bit slow here, but just bear with me. I'll go ahead and log in. And we're logging in as host, obviously, and this is going to bring up the new experience. Now there's a bunch of pieces that aren't working here, so we're not going to go over everything, but we'll just give you a little taste. So you can see immediately I've got this new bar that comes on the left-hand side. We've got some other UI elements that will be coming in. This right now is primarily replicating everything that was in admin host, but there are some other things that were in Persona Bar that aren't here, right? So if you think about how do you take a page into edit mode and some of the other things, there is something we call the edit bar that will be coming as well. That's still a couple of weeks out, I think, until that's ready to go. But I'm just going to go to one place here. If I go into Tools on the Persona Bar, if I can get it to work for me, you can start to see like the custom CSS page. So this used to be inside site settings, right? You would go inside site settings and you would set your portal CSS. And it's like, okay, that kind of makes sense, but kind of not. So now it's got its own page. It's sort of dedicated to just editing that portal CSS file, right? You know, the old SQL console was here. Some of these are fairly simplistic in terms of the UI. So these were some of the ones that were easy for us to build first. You know, task scheduler, this one's a little more involved. And you can start to see some more of the UI start creeping in here. So, you know, the whole experience, I mean, look how quickly I go from one setting to another. I can drill in on this experience, right? And it just, everything is just snapping, right? It's not this slow page refresh, open up the edit page. I mean, that's instant, right? That's not this massive page refresh, page post back. This is what I mean by the experience for the administrators is night and day. And this really, I think, from an administrative experience, really takes DNN to the next level, and really sort of brings us current and makes us, I think, very competitive with anyone else's UI in the CMS space in terms of what people are doing today. So this is why, you know, when we talk about why we need to do this, and do I need to have this big long conversation with community or with other people, it's like, yeah, I think we've got this. I think this is something that we understand, and we've gotten feedback from people already, and we're at the point now, it's just like we just need to run and get this done and get this into customers' hands, because this is what people have been asking for a long time.
Very good, very good. So my questions are done. I just want to make a note that over the next few weeks, I'll be reviewing some of those features on the new DNN9, and I'll be doing some video to review them, to present them, to see how it was then DNN 8 and to see how things change on DNN 9 feature by feature. So there will be a lot of small little videos that I'll be pushing forward on the next few weeks. Joe, feel free if you want to, show anything else. I mean, I'm done here with my questions.
Yeah, I think we're gonna leave people wanting more rather than try to show them everything here today. I think I'm really looking forward to working with you to get these other videos out. We've got a lot of content to be built out over the next couple of months between videos that you're working on. I've got a whole series of blogs between myself and Ash and Will that we're going to be pushing out. We've got a fairly aggressive schedule on the blogging side. We've got what else we've got? We've got things like the new admin style guide for the persona bar. We've got a whole host of documentation that's being worked on. So there is a lot of pieces in motion, and hopefully we're all going to hit on the same date and be ready for that December launch. I'm fairly comfortable that we're going to have most of the stuff there. There may be a few stragglers here and there, but I think getting all of those pieces in place and really, I think this is going to inject a lot of energy into the community, something we've needed for a while. And I'm really looking forward to the next couple of months helping people come up to speed and seeing as I show this to people and as I've talked to people, you can just see people's eyes sort of light up as they get excited about, oh my God, you mean I don't have to wait 2 seconds to go look at this schedule or to go see that screen, right? It's a matter of coming over here and saying, hey, I want to go to the task scheduler, right? Go to the history and just be able to scroll down. Or maybe I want to go in and see my server logs, right? And see the event viewer, right? And then just hide that back out of the way and I'm back on the page ready to edit, ready to do whatever I was doing before, right? And it's literally, it's like I couldn't even get a page refresh in to navigate around the site in the time that I went to 2 or 3 tabs in my persona bar there. And then I'm right back on the site doing what I was doing before. And that's really exciting. And when people see that and they see how quick it is and they see all that new capability, to me, I think this thing sells itself when you start showing people that. And they truly get why we need to do this and why we've made this decision. So
perfect. And you just gave me a lot of work there because I'll be doing the full day training on DNN administration for DNN Summit, so I have to redo my entire presentation from the last DNN Conf. So a lot of work that I have to do, but again, it's more than worth,
Well, and you're gonna have to find a way to fill up the extra time in your session, because before you could always rely on page refreshes to suck up quite a bit of time. And now you're not going to have those anymore. You're going to have to find new things to talk about.
Very good, very good, very good, Joe. Again, thank you very much for the time and for putting up with just about 50 minutes of conversation here about the DNN 9. We're going to be having a lot more conversations like that in the near future, and wait for some videos coming out as well. Thank you very much, Joe. Good talking to you.
Thanks, Addison. We'll see you later, sir.